Hi, this video will discuss the marginal product of labor and average product of labor, show you graphically how these two are related. In this relationship between marginal product of labor and average product of labor, let's keep capital fixed. So capital is not changing in the short run. The only thing that's changing in the short run is labor. And here's a column of labor numbers that correspond to a given level of output. The second column is how much output we're producing, or the total product of labor. This third column, marginal product of labor, is simply the difference, how your total product of labor is changing with each additional worker. This is marginal product of labor. And our final column on the right is average product of labor, which is simply dividing your output divided by a number of workers that you have. The top graph will graph the total product of labor. As you add more workers, how much output that you have. The bottom graph will be, once again, number of workers that you are hiring. However, on the vertical, we'll have average product of labor and marginal product of labor sketched. So let's start by looking at the peak of our marginal product of labor, which occurs when we have 4 workers. That's what's plotted here, 4 workers, and the peak of that output was 56 is our total product of labor, and that corresponds to a marginal product of labor of 20. And that's the highest our marginal product of labor will get. Anywhere from after that, additional workers are hired. Look what's happening to marginal product of labor. It's declining and even turns negative. Prior to having 4 workers hired, what's happening to marginal product of labor? It's getting larger with a peak at 20. So this is what the marginal product of labor looks like. It is increasing until we get to 4 workers with 20 as a marginal product of labor, and then after that it's declining. On the top graph, the total product of labor is increasing at an increasing rate. But this increase at an increasing rate, inflection point is here at point A, because the slope of our total product of labor is the marginal product of labor. Now, after this point, additional workers are hired, marginal product of labor, diminishing returns kick in, yes, and then marginal product of labor starts to decline. So it's still positive, but it starts to decline after 4 workers are hired. So this is the diminishing marginal productivity is occurring. So let's show you that on a graph. As we have now 6 workers, why are we focusing on 6? 6 is where average product of labor reaches its peak. And 6 is where average product of labor reaches its peak. So we're going to sketch the average product of labor in just a second. But the marginal product of labor here, when we have 6 workers, is falling. It's now at 15. Note 15 and 15 are the point of intersection between average product of labor and marginal product of labor. So here now in the green is our average product of labor graph. So it is rising until you have 6 workers hired. Look, average product of labor increases, increases. Here stays the same. So it reaches its peak here when you have 6 workers hired at 15. When workers are hired after 6 workers are hired, average product labor is now falling. Okay? So here is where average productivity reaches its peak. If you were to take a tangent from the origin to this point, it will just touch this ray from the origin. That's also the peak of your average productivity. Additional workers hired. Where is the output maximized? 110 is the largest output when you have 11 workers. Okay, so 11 workers, this is where this blue curve is going to reach its peak. Any workers hired after 11 is going to actually reduce your output, and therefore you have negative marginal productivities of labor. So that 11th worker hired, look, output didn't change, so your marginal productivity of labor there is 0. And so this blue line will hit 0 when you have 11 workers. There we go, 0. And what's happening to average product of labor? When you have 11 workers hired, it's still positive and stays positive as you have workers hired 11 and beyond. So there's your average product of labor. So quick summary then. When the marginal product of labor and average product of labor meet, that will always tell you the peak of your average product of labor. When your marginal product of labor, the blue one, exceeds the average product of labor, your average will go up. When your marginal product labor is below the average will come down. And they intersect at the peak of the average productivity of labor. The peak of marginal productivity labor occurs well before this peak in average.